This is awesome. This is like a X Games industry conference that we've needed forever. It's nice to look around the room, see so many different faces from across the different landscapes. Looks like a lot of folks are building and sharing ideas, and this is what we need. It is my honor to be up here on the stage and have this next conversation with two people who I love dearly as human beings and friends. I can call both of them my sisters. The first is Pam Zam, Executive Director of the 43 Institute, and Lucy Block, professional rally car driver, founder of Blockhouse Racing, and the president of the 43 Institute, which we're going to be talking about today. Last year, a little over a year ago, we lost one of the best human beings that I've ever known, a man by the name of Ken Block, who was a lot more than what we know him to be famous for. Obviously, Gymkhana and driving cars, the work that he did in the founding of DC Shoe Company, and just the depth of influence that he was able to have across the board. It still does not feel real that Ken is no longer with us. He was one of the kindest, most inspirational human beings that I ever met. I literally would not be sitting on this stage if it wasn't for his friendship that started all the way back when we worked in a skate shop together in the late 80s. But I'd like to welcome Pam and Lucy to the stage right now. Hi. I think the most fascinating thing to me is that in grief is a very powerful thing. When you lose someone like Ken, the impact to your family and friends is immediate and huge, but then you have to do it with the whole world because the whole world also felt a sense of family and connection and ownership to him. What drove you both? What was it about Ken that drove you in such a short span to immediately say, okay, we're grieving, we're hurting, but we're also going to start this 43 Institute in his name now?
I think just through the whole experience and in the beginning, how many people came out to speak about what Ken did for them, how Ken empowered others, how he gave them a chance or pushed them to be better within the industry and outside of the industry. But his love and him being a fan and part of the action sports community, we immediately wanted to, how do we keep that going? How do we keep empowering others in the honor of Ken?
Yeah, Ken's fan base is so huge globally. And like we knew we were grieving, but for me, working with Ken for over 14 years at DC and then continuing to work with him at Hoonigan, I saw his marketing reach and his fan base firsthand and knew that his reach and then his giving back and mentoring others when he was alive, we had to continue that. He was a private philanthropist. He gave back to so many brands and so many people, and it was important to continue that. And as Lucy just mentioned, he was a participant, but bigger than a participant, he was a fan of action sports, you know, and action sports and motorsports. He always wanted to just continue to get the word out about action sports and how do we better it, and not just for Ken, better it for the whole industry. And he would help his competitors because it was important to continue the sport and continue athletes. And how do we promote everything? And he worked hand in hand with X Games. You know, I mean, one of the things he did was bring Rallycross to X Games because the world couldn't wrap their head around, or America couldn't wrap their head around Rallycross. You know, you were there, Selema. You know, so we needed to continue this organization, and everything Ken did privately, we needed to continue that through the organization.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Ken was that if he saw an opportunity for things to be better, he could not ignore it. And that also meant if you were one of his competitors, you know, he believed that all the ships needed to rise together as opposed to one rising above. And he looked at individuals across the industry that way. If he saw that there was an opportunity for you to grow, he let you know. I never knew that I had professional value until I met Ken. And he called me one day and he gave me a chastising because he saw that I was wearing brands on television for free. And so he called me up one day out of the blue, I swear. And he said, "Are those people paying you?" I said, "No, bro, you know, they sent me a box and da da da." He's like, "That stops today." This was in 2004. He said, "You're on DC now and Quicksilver." And 2 weeks later, there was a contract for more money than I ever could have imagined. And he set the bar and value for, I never thought that I could be associated with brands. I thought I was just only here to talk. But that's how he was with everyone. Everyone has a story of how Ken couldn't help but be like, "Hey, I see what you're doing, and it could use a little bit of this." What is it about his life and his accomplishments as you decided to start this institute? Everyone, there's all sorts of foundations, but now you have to put that DNA in there. So how did you choose those ingredients when it came to Ken to build 43 Institute?
I mean, for me, we sat down and all talked about the stories. Like I said, everyone coming in and saying, "This is what Ken did for me, and this is how he changed my life," or "This is how he helped me with my business," or "This is how he pushed me to be better than I was before." And we kind of just talked about all of those, all the information that was coming in, and what we now think is what he's leaving behind as his legacy is empowering others. It's mentorship. It's skills development, you know, within the industry, and understanding how important it is to develop the skills to become a better athlete or a better person in that right. There's also, you know, very important mental and physical health. It's something Ken was always, you know, very important in having an understanding with his athletes, and when they're done on the game, like what's next, and how the mental game is so important while you're an athlete and after. So just taking the information from others and saying, how can we apply, you know, this information, and how can we make difference in people's life and keep that going. So I feel like that's where it came from, and what we're trying to apply is basically empowering others and making you stronger and making you do things you thought you couldn't do.
When you that mentorship and that and helping others, there's a wide landscape of what that can look like. What are the places that you're starting with now, or the areas that you're starting with now, and then we'll talk about where you'd like to go.
So right now we've only been around just over a year. Ken's only been gone just over a year. So with that, we decided to focus on being a pass-through organization instead of being our own nonprofit. So we're able to bring in and raise awareness and money and then disperse it to nonprofit organizations that Ken was passionate about, and especially focused on action sports and youth organizations. So we just threw our first fundraiser event called 4-3 Day. So we play on April 3rd And we actually made April 3rd a national Ken Block holiday. And with that, we raise funds and then disperse them out. So we've dispersed them out to Montana Pool Service, Rad Share, Stoke Mentoring, Harold Hunter Foundation. So all these foundations are focused on action sports and how to educate youth and get them ready for society. So one is Stoked, which you're very familiar with. We actually brought 20 kids out to 4-3 day, and I spoke with them and said, so what'd you guys think? Besides just having fun, they went back to the city and they never have access to come out and leave the inner city. So they came to Park City, and they were surprised that outside of their city bubble, there's people that care about them. And they continued this on through their schoolwork, through people that were bullying them, and were able to move on. Their teachers were like, just a short trip has changed their lives already. And that's what we want, is to change people's lives, give them a new outlook on life, to keep excelling with moving forward. And then beyond that, it's like there's career path opportunities that you can take. You don't have to be stuck in your city. There's a whole world out there.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we think about action sports and the people who participate, it's very easy for folks to see the regular participants or the professional level, but by providing access to people who normally wouldn't have access, that's how we continue to grow this thing. And I mean, being there at this first fundraiser with you guys in Salt Lake, I was able to see it in real time with these kids who just couldn't believe that they were there, standing on top of a mountain that big in Utah, whilst also celebrating Ken's life. This question is probably going to evoke some feelings, but if Ken was here today seeing this work, what do you think he'd be saying?
Do better. Do better. No, I mean, he would definitely tell us to do better, and he would tell us to, do more. And I think he'd also be proud.
Yeah. I know you're going to say something so funny right now, Pam.
I would just think that he'd be like, stop doing anything in my name. Like, what are you doing? Like, he was just so private,
Yeah.
It just,
He'd be like, did you have to put my name on it?
I know.
Couldn't you have called it something else?
every time I like put something with his face, I just know that he's like, why are you putting my face on this?
Where, for us as an industry, and I appreciate you both being up here, this is still such a fresh wound. And like I said at the outset of this, watching you do this work in real time, it can't be easy. Like what are the challenges in choosing to do this at this time?
Well, it's starting a nonprofit in general and having no idea what we were doing. That's a huge hurdle. The rules and regulations, trying to narrow it down on how we're going to help others, how we're going to continue this, how to empower others in a way that it would be something that Ken would want to do. But at the same time, make differences in people's lives and make sure that other people know that we're trying to make a difference in people's lives and do it in respect to Ken's legacy. So I think that's very difficult. But with the help of Pam and others like yourself and others on the board, we hopefully will hone it in and definitely make difference in people's lives, but raise more funds using what Ken, I think I knew you laugh about his face, but he would want us to use his legacy and his name to continue to empower others.
How can our industry is much more disjointed than it once was, right? We used to be an action sports family. And then a bunch of really giant companies came in and bought everything up. And sometimes it feels like we're walking around on the action sports set of The Last of Us. But an event like this sort of makes you feel like, all right, there's possibility in us being able to come in together and sit and exchange. How can brands and the industry in general engage? What are you looking for when it comes to engaging with the rest of the industry and 43 Institute?
I think brands that are passionate about giving back to action sports and pushing forward youth to enjoy action sports and to have career paths, and like you said, creating access to something that's not available to them in their community is very important. And so even with the new brands coming in, and we've been around a long time and we were there at the beginning, but we have to welcome it to the newcomers. And I think everybody who's passionate about action sports, we welcome it and introduce the new communities and youth organizations and show them what's available to them.
Thanks for reminding me that I have an AARP card when you said we've been around for a long, long time. I felt that in my body. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you want to see the 43 Institute? What are we doing?
Well, I think 5 or 10 years from now, I hope 43 Institute has a name that stands alone. And not that I don't think that Ken Block's name is very important to be attached to it, but I hope that it's making such a difference in people's lives and within the industry that it's just a stamp that you see where you go and you understand that it's there to help and empower others and to bring other people into the industry and to push you and those youth and those people to make a difference and make the industry grow and become what maybe it was.
Pam?
Yeah, exactly. It's like pushing forward. It's like having it be a household name and understand that if you know 43 Institute, that we are granting others the opportunity to excel.
My first job in this industry was answering the phones at Transworld.
I remember.
Yeah, you were there. I think I was 21 years old when I got that job as a receptionist. There was no way there was no plug. You had to know somebody. You had to be in the industry to get in the industry. I got lucky enough. Chad Denena, who went on to found Nixon, was working at Transworld. I was bussing tables at a restaurant that he came into with a badge for the ASR trade show. And I saw that him and a bunch of other people had on trade show badges, and I was like, those are my people. And I went and hammered them and broed them down and gave them free coffee and orange juice, and they kept coming back. And Chad got me that. He was like, you should be in our industry. And that changed my life. But what you guys are doing, that was a chance, life lottery situation. But I think with what you're talking about with 43 Institute, to really reach out and build opportunity. I think for so long we talked about, we can get kids out riding snowboards from the inner city and they had a great experience and bye, without bringing these type of people in from marginalized backgrounds to have not just the experience of doing the thing, which feels awesome, but to be able to build a much bigger, larger, more engaged, more diverse community that fuels the growth of our family. And I know that he is absolutely beaming with immense pride and that this is something that he's fired up on from the beyond. And it's going to be incredible to watch what you're able to do in his spirit. And yet, yes, one day 43 Institute will stand on its own, but it will always be fueled by that relentless I don't even know how he did all the things, spirit of one Mr. Ken Block. And I just thank you both for coming up here, sharing this story, doing the work. And I know that this industry is going to be behind you to continue to grow it and to help you do so. So thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to stay too long. We have money for you. Sorry. $4,300 from X Games to the 43 Institute. So there you go. I forgot the most important part.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Another round of applause for Pam Zam and Lucy Block.